The stars had always been silent watchers, but tonight they watched the massacre of an innocent world. Turnax 3 was a peaceful colony. No weapons, no defense, just families, farmers, and medics, most of them exiles from Earth's bureaucratic filth, looking for quiet lives light years away. They weren't soldiers, they didn't expect war, and they never had a chance. The attack began without warning. No negotiation, no declaration, just fire and steel from above. The Shalva came down like gods with no mercy, their obsidian crafts raining plasma on homes, clinics, and schools. It wasn't a battle, it was extermination. Jaren had been off-world when the first strikes hit. A cargo pilot. Nothing special, just a man hauling medical supplies and farming tech between systems. But Turnax 3 was home. His wife, his 2 daughters. The last message he got from his wife was 6 words, "They're landing, I'm holding the door." And then silence. He sat in the cockpit of his transport ship, staring at those words on the comms screen as if sheer will could make them change. As if he just waited long enough, another message would come. But it didn't. Orbit scans confirmed it. Turnax 3 was ash. Buildings gone, life signs gone. Families gone. Jaren's heart broke in a quiet, irreversible way. No screams, no rage, just cold. He wasn't a soldier, but at that moment he wished he'd been born one. The Shalvar weren't new. Most of the galaxy knew about them. Silent raiders known for stripping weak planets of everything. Resources, artifacts, people. Always avoided the strong. Always fed on the helpless. That was the rule. Predators hunt prey, not threats. And Earth? Earth had played neutral for too long. Diplomacy, regulations, off-world treaties that meant nothing when monsters came in the dark. But something changed after Turnax. Jaren didn't go back to Earth to cry about it. He didn't start a petition. He didn't light a candle. He found the underground. He found the old war veterans, the ones Earth didn't talk about anymore, the ones who fought in the Belt riots, the Martian uprisings, the Deep Void recon, men who'd buried friends in black space and never forgot the taste of vengeance. They trained him. And hundreds more like him. Broken fathers, orphaned sons, survivors with nothing left but hatred. What they built wasn't an army. It wasn't legal. But it was real. They called it the Fleet of the Forgotten. Earth's officials said they weren't sanctioned, said they were vigilantes. But when news of the Turnax slaughter reached the inner systems, people stopped asking for permission. They just loaded ships. The fleet grew in the shadows. Old freighters modified with heavy weapons. Mining crafts turned into stealth bombers. Civilian cruisers plated in asteroid steel. They had no command structure, no emblems, no anthem. Just one shared vow: we bring fire to those who burned the helpless. Jaren's ship, once a rusty freighter, became a monster. Twin railguns welded to the hull, modified drives, ECM layers thick enough to blind scans. They didn't want to negotiate anymore. They wanted the stars to tremble when they arrived. The Shalva struck another colony 2 months later. Smaller, quieter. They thought no one would care, but as they landed, they looked up. And what they saw wasn't sky. It was steel. Thousands of human ships blocking out the light. No signals, no warnings. Just one broadcast. You took our homes, now we take your kind. And hell fell upon them. They never expected resistance like that. The Shalvar were used to prey folding within minutes, used to cries, not cannons. Panic, not payloads. Their landing crafts had barely touched the soil before Earth's fleet cracked the skies open and turned their arrogance into screams. Jaren wasn't in command, but he didn't need to be. No one really was. Orders were replaced by instincts, tactics replaced by fury. Ships moved like predators in a pack, surrounding the Shalvar positions and tearing through them with raw, unfiltered vengeance. Jaren's railguns fired the first shot. The blast hit a Shalvar command frigate mid-descent, splitting it clean in half. He watched it burn as pieces fell into the atmosphere like cursed rain. That was for his wife. That was for his girls. "Burn, you alien bastards," he muttered, his voice barely human anymore. Beside him, a battered old cruiser called the Mercy Killer followed up with a kinetic payload that shattered another drop pod, bodies spilling from it like ants scattered in zero gravity. The comms lit up with the cheers of men who had waited too long to feel something close to justice. The Shalvar tried to fight back, but they were built for quick raids, not prolonged warfare. And they hadn't fought humans like these before, not the polished, diplomatic kind Earth liked to parade at peace summits. These were the broken, the grieving, the ones with nothing left to lose. They didn't ask about laws, they didn't care about rules. They wanted one thing: a clean ledger, blood for blood. Jaren landed his ship on the far ridge of the colony ruins, the place the Shalvar were trying to secure as a forward outpost. It used to be a community center. He recognized the broken arch. He remembered playing tag with his kids near it. Now it was burning and crawling with alien scum. He grabbed his rifle and stormed out before the landing gears even locked. The air stank of scorched metal and Shalvar bile. Their plasma tech had left black scars all over the ground. But it wasn't enough to stop him. He saw one of them, a scout, tall and skeletal, skin like cracked obsidian, barking orders to a squad. Jaren didn't hesitate. One clean shot through the skull. The creature dropped mid-sentence, confusion frozen on its face. The squad turned, but too late. The rest of his ground team, other survivors from Turnax and similar colonies, poured out from drop bays. Grenades flew. Gunfire echoed. They swept through the camp like a storm of ghosts returning for the guilty. Jaren found the Shalvar command post, tucked beneath the broken ruins of a daycare center. He stepped inside and saw the remains of small chairs, melted toys, and charred walls. That was when something in him snapped. He didn't wait for backup. He didn't want the kill to be clean. The Shalvar commander hissed something in its native tongue as Jaren entered. It was unarmed. Likely didn't think a human would breach the inner zone so quickly. Jaren didn't care. He raised his rifle slowly. "I hope you remember every scream," he whispered, "because I remember them all." The blast echoed like a funeral bell. When he stepped back outside, the ground was quiet. Smoke hung thick over the settlement, but the resistance had crushed the alien forward force. A few Shalvar ships tried to retreat. Too late. Earth's fleet tracked and vaporized them before they cleared orbit. One by one, survivors began reporting in from other colonies under threat. Similar fleets had arrived, more men and women who had joined the Forgotten. Ships with names like Widow's Wrath, Gravemaker, Orphan's Teeth. It wasn't just revenge anymore, it was movement. A reckoning. Jaren climbed a hill near the ridge. His ship hovered above him, silent and waiting. He looked up. The stars were barely visible behind the fleet's shadow. Thousands of vessels, some big, some makeshift, but all deadly. And for the first time in months, he felt something strange. Not hope, purpose. The war was far from over. The galaxy was still blind. The Shalvar weren't the only predators out there. But now the predators had predators of their own. The universe took notice. It started with whispers, scattered transmissions, pirate chatter, mercenary forums deep in the black net, rumors of a human fleet operating outside Earth's command, a force not bound by treaties or Galactic Council oversight, a fleet born from grief, powered by rage, and guided by no flag. The Shalvar called them the Dark Wave. Other species started calling them something else, the Judgment Fleet. Jaren didn't care what they were called. He only cared that they kept moving, planet to planet, colony to colony. Wherever the Shalvar or their coward allies thought they could take, pillage or erase, the fleet arrived and turned the sky to fire. But not every mission ended in triumph. The next operation brought them to Vardis 6, a mining world in the shadow of a blue dwarf star. No atmosphere worth protecting, just deep-crust resource drills and labor camps. The Shalvar weren't after minerals. They wanted slaves. They'd already begun harvesting. When Jaren's ship entered orbit, the surface was crawling with transports. Massive containment freighters, dark, rusted, and ominous, sucking up the population like cattle through a chute. Scans showed thousands of humans aboard, crammed into cold storage bays. He clenched his jaw so hard it ached. This time, they didn't wait for a landing. The fleet opened fire instantly. Orbital cannons tore into the containment ships, shattering hulls and igniting prison decks in seconds. It wasn't precise. It wasn't clean. But Jaren had seen what happened when those ships got away. Death was mercy compared to what the Shalvar did to living prisoners. But one freighter slipped through. It broke low atmosphere and fired up its jump drive. If it hit slip space, the slaves aboard were gone. No way to trace them. Jaren didn't think. He pushed his ship to maximum thrust, hull plating screaming as he skimmed the planet's crust. He locked onto the escaping freighter, his nav computer spitting warnings at him, screaming about velocity thresholds and structural failure. He didn't care. "This one's mine!" He barked into the fleet channel. "Jaren, you're gonna fry your engines." Someone warned. "Then I'll fry with them." He hit the overburn. The freighter was seconds from disappearing into slipspace. Jaren's targeting system blinked red. Range closing, but too fast for a safe shot. He had one chance. He rerouted all power from his shields to weapons. A suicide move. If this didn't work, he'd be space dust. He locked the railguns and aimed for the freighter's drive core. One breath, one trigger pull. The twin barrels fired. Silence for a beat. Then the freighter exploded into a blinding white bloom, fragments shooting in every direction. His ship was caught in the shockwave and thrown sideways like a toy in a hurricane. Hull alarm screamed. Power died. Systems failed. And then everything went black. Jaren woke up in a medbay 2 days later. His right arm was gone below the elbow. Synthetic bandage wraps covered half his torso. Burn damage, broken ribs, internal bleeding. He was lucky to be alive. "Some would call you a hero," a gravel voice said nearby. He turned his head. It was Captain Reddick, former Earth Navy, now one of the fleet's most brutal tacticians. The man looked carved from stone. "I'm not a hero," Jaren muttered. "I just didn't want to see another cage ship get away." "You didn't," Reddick said. "We recovered over 1,200 humans from the wreckage. You saved them." Jaren didn't feel like a savior. He felt hollow. For every life saved, another 100 had already been lost somewhere else. "I need back in," he said. "Don't care about the arm. I'll fly with one hand if I have to." Reddick studied him, then nodded. "You'll get your new rig tomorrow. Be ready, because we found something." Jaren blinked. "What?" "The Shalvar. They're not just raiding. They're coordinating. We intercepted a signal. Old encryption, Earth military type." That made Jaren sit up despite the pain. "You saying humans are helping them?" "Number, I'm saying someone is. Someone from Earth. Someone with clearance codes we haven't used since the Jupiter collapse." Jaren's heart dropped. "That's not possible." Reddick's eyes were cold. "It is, and it means the real enemy might not be alien." The idea festered like rot in Jaren's gut. Earth had always pretended to stay clean, neutral, above the savagery of frontier space. Behind their walls of diplomacy, they preached peace, preached structure. But those walls were built with blood, and now it seemed they were leaking. A traitor, human clearance codes embedded in Shalvar transmissions. Someone from Earth, someone with rank, was helping the monsters. Back in the hangar, they fit Jaren with a prosthetic arm. Not a clean chrome thing from a capital tech lab. No, this was forged in a shipyard, rugged and ugly, made for war. Welded plates, reinforced joints, and enough grip strength to break bone. Perfect. His ship had survived, barely. Scarred, dented, one engine fried. But she was still flying. They patched her up while Jaren limped through recovery, and in 3 days he was back in the seat. No ceremony, no speech. He just launched. Reddick had given him coordinates, a ghost relay station on the edge of neutral space. Once part of Earth's early warning network during the Belt conflicts, supposedly decommissioned. Now someone had turned it back on. Jaren approached in silence, sensors hot. The relay floated like a corpse, still, black, unresponsive. But it wasn't dead. Heat signatures blinked beneath the hull. Power readings just under threshold. Someone was home. He docked manually. No auto-lock, no beacon, just the hiss of pressurization and the thud of his boots on cold steel. Inside it was worse. Dust in the vents, blood trails on the floor, scorch marks on the walls. Someone had been here, and something had gone wrong. He followed the trail. Deeper inside, he found the bodies. 3 techs, all wearing old Earth Navy uniforms. Shot execution style. Not Shalvar kills. These were clean, efficient. Human hands did this. His comlink buzzed. Jaren, it's Reddick. We got another ping. Someone's jamming your location. They know you're there. Too late, Jaren said. I'm already in the hornet's nest. A voice spoke behind him. Then you might as well hear the truth. He turned, rifle up. But the man standing there wasn't armed. Not obviously, anyway. Middle-aged. Grey hair cropped tight. Worn but confident. His face, familiar. Jaren couldn't place it until the man spoke again. I knew your father. Jaren's heart stopped. My father died in the recon wars, he said coldly. No, the man replied. He died because he found out what we were doing. Jaren stared. Who the hell are you? Director Talvek, Earth Naval Intelligence, or what's left of it. He stepped forward slowly. You think the Shalvar are the disease, Talvek said. But they're the symptom. The real sickness is chaos, lawlessness, and we needed control, so we made a deal. Jaren's blood boiled. You fed colonies to those monsters. We gave them targets that kept them from attacking Earth's core systems, sacrificed the fringe to protect the center. It worked for years, until your people got loud. Jaren raised his rifle. You murdered my family. You covered it up. Talvek didn't flinch. They were unfortunate, collateral, but the bigger picture... Jaren fired, not a kill shot, shoulder. He wanted the man to bleed first. Talvek hit the wall with a groan. Jaren closed in. You're going to tell the fleet everything, he growled. Every name, every operation, or I swear to God I'll peel it out of your mind piece by piece. Talvek laughed through the pain. You think your little rebellion matters? Earth has fleets you haven't even seen. AI-run black ops, sleeper agents in every quadrant. You think I'm the only one? Jaren didn't answer. He just slammed the butt of his rifle into Talvek's face. Then again, and again, until the man stopped laughing. Back on his ship, he transmitted the full confession to Reddick, audio, logs, everything. But there was no joy, no victory. Because now they knew. The war wasn't just with the Shalvar, it was with Earth itself. They didn't speak for a while after the transmission. Reddick just sat there on the command line, staring at the image of Director Talvek, blooded, bound, barely breathing in the corner of Jaren's ship. The silence was thick, not with doubt, but with weight, with the knowledge that everything they were fighting was bigger, deeper, filthier than they ever imagined. "You sure the recording's clean?" Reddick finally asked, his voice low. "It's airtight," Jaren said. "Voice print matched, facial ID, retinal scan, command passcodes. He gave them all up." "And you're sure he's not bait?" Jaren leaned back in his pilot's chair, staring at the unconscious man behind him. "He's not clever enough for that. This guy was a middleman. He thought he was untouchable, just another rat in a palace of shadows." Reddick nodded slowly. "Then we move." Within 24 hours, the Judgment Fleet gathered in the shadow of a dying moon. Every ship that could still fly limped into formation. Freighters turned gunships, medical vessels now flying skull flags, mining rigs rigged with torpedoes. They weren't organized, they weren't pretty, but they were lethal. Reddick called it the Black Summit, a final gathering before the next strike. The crew came in person, hundreds of them, pilots, soldiers, ex-cons, deserters, men who'd lost everything, men with no future, every one of them carrying scars, either on skin or in soul. Jaren stood with them under the flickering lights of the old mining dome, Talvek's confession echoing through the speakers. You could hear the tension tighten with every word. How Earth had funded the Shalvar through backdoor tech trades, how they'd fed remote colonies to raiders to preserve their inner worlds, how they'd intentionally sabotaged early warnings, how they'd watched entire settlements burn and called it necessary containment. By the end of the audio, half the room was shaking with rage. A few men openly wept, others screamed, some tried to charge the stage before being held back. And then Reddick stepped forward. "I served Earth Navy for 30 years, he said, voice raw. "I bled for the flag, I buried brothers under it, and today I throw it in the dirt." No cheers, just silence. Pure, focused, deadly silence. "We're not just fighting the Shalvar anymore," he continued. "We're fighting a system that sold us out, that sells out every man, woman, and child who can't afford a voice. This fleet is no longer about revenge. It's about revolution." He turned to Jaren. He found the rot. He dragged it into the light. "And I say we burn the rest of it out." This time, the silence broke. Shouts, roars, a rising wave of fury and resolve. Jaren didn't smile. He didn't nod. He just stared out past the dome glass at the broken ships in orbit. They were going to hit Earth, not with propaganda, not with lawyers, but with steel. Later that night, in the dark of his cabin, Jaren stared at an old picture. His wife, his girls, smiling. Back when peace had meant something, before fire fell from the stars. "I'm coming home," he whispered. Not to forgive, not to forget, but to remind them what they created. The Earth Defense Network was never meant to stop Earth's own children. It was built to repel alien threats, foreign fleets, and asteroid strikes. It was a fortress, yes, but one built with arrogance. One built on the belief that no human would ever dare turn their guns toward home. That belief died the moment the Judgment Fleet dropped out of slipspace above Saturn's orbit. They didn't come quietly. They didn't hide. They came like a funeral procession from hell. Black ships, silent weapons systems armed, no beacons, no flags. Only one signal broadcast to every military frequency Earth still used. "We are the price of your betrayal, and we've come to collect." The panic on the EarthGov channels was instant. Scrambling fleet movements, conflicting orders, naval ships deployed in scattered formations. Half the high command thought it was a bluff. The other half knew it wasn't, and had no idea how to stop it. Jaren led the Vanguard wing personally. His ship, recoded and rearmed, tore through Earth's outer patrol lines like a knife through wet paper. The defenders hesitated. Young, clean pilots with no battlefield scars, no sense of the fire coming for them. He didn't hate them, but he didn't hesitate either. The first Earth cruiser that opened fire paid for it in pieces. The second turned tail before his rail guns warmed up. The third, they surrendered. Full systems offline, broadcasting the old human distress code, "We will not fight our own." Others weren't so lucky. Reddick's forces split into 3 flanks, one for orbital suppression, one for disabling the command grid, and one heading straight for EarthGov's high tower in the American megazone. Jaren was in the last group. The Shalvar had made him a killer. Earth had made him a storm. Atmospheric re-entry nearly tore his ship apart. Earth's sky had changed. Glowing cities stretched across entire continents now. But he didn't care. He wasn't here for sightseeing. He was here to tear out the heart. His boots hit Earth's soil for the first time in over a decade. Cold, clean, controlled, and beneath it, rot. They moved fast through the megacity, hitting military relays and satellite uplinks, disabling drones and countermeasures. Civilians watched from behind force field walls, faces pale, eyes wide. Most didn't know the truth. Most had been fed a lie. That colonies were lost due to external threats. That Earth had done all it could. Jaren saw the look in their eyes and knew what came next would change everything. They stormed the high tower just past midnight. Earth's elite security forces had fortified the upper levels, but they didn't expect ex-soldiers with decades of combat hell hardwired into their instincts. Jaren's squad moved like ghosts, silent, brutal, precise. Room by room, they carved their way up. The tower's top floor was a sanctuary. Glass walls, glowing panels, men in clean suits who'd never seen war a day in their lives. When Jaren burst through the main chamber doors, those men froze like rabbits in floodlights. "Which one of you ran Operation Black Exchange?" he asked. They didn't answer, so he shot the first one in the leg, screaming. Blood on marble. The second one talked fast. They gave him names, coordinates, data backups. The truth spilled like oil, black and endless. Earth hadn't just fed the Shalvar, they had created them. Centuries ago, the Shalvar were dying, a primitive race on the brink. Earth sent observers to uplift them with selective technology, weaponized evolution, turned them into mercenaries, disposable predators to keep border systems destabilized so Earth could tighten control. But the Shalvar evolved too fast, grew too hungry, slipped the leash. Now Earth was just as scared of them as everyone else. Jaren stared at the architect of it all, a man named Chancellor Greaves. Silver suit, polished smile, trembling hands. "You turned monsters loose on your own people," Jaren said. "And when it came back on you, you hid behind lies." "It was survival," Greaves spat. "You think you understand war? You think your loss gives you the right to burn down the world?" Jaren stepped closer, his voice cold steel. "Number my loss gave me the courage to face what you buried." He turned to the main feed station. With one command, he uploaded everything, the files, the videos, Talvek's confession. Liv streamed it across every Earth channel, every colony signal, every fringe relay. The truth was out. Every man, woman, and child who had watched their home burn would now know why. Behind him, Greaves screamed orders to guards who no longer obeyed. Earth was beginning to crack. And Jaren? He lit the match. The truth spread like fire in dry grass. Within hours, Earth's cities erupted, first in confusion, then in anger, then in flames. Every screen, every feed, every civilian net pulsed with the same footage. Sobbing children in burning colonies, corpses in containment freighters, black market tech trades between Earth's elite and alien butchers. Jaren's broadcast wasn't polished. It didn't need to be. It was raw, bloody, honest, the kind of truth people didn't forget. The streets of the megacities swelled with protests, then riots. Not just the poor, engineers, workers, former military, even some corporate defectors. People who had believed in Earth's righteousness. People who now saw it for what it was, a polished machine of betrayal. Jaren stood on the roof of the high tower, watching the chaos unfold below. Behind him, the Chancellor sat cuffed to a chair, bruised and silent. Greaves wasn't talking anymore, not because of fear, because of something worse, humiliation. A man who had always moved in silence, now reduced to the villain in a revolution that would never forget his face. "Sir," one of Reddick's lieutenants said, approaching. "The fleet's reporting full orbital control. No military resistance left, that matters. Navy's fractured. Half their admirals just walked off the job." Jaren nodded slowly. "What about the colonies?" They saw the broadcast. Uprisings everywhere. Even some Shalva outposts are falling. Looks like when the money stopped flowing from Earth, their own allies turned on them. Poetic. Reddick arrived a few minutes later, his expression unreadable. He looked around the room, then at the bound Chancellor. "We could hand him over to the colonies," he muttered. "They'd string him up in less than a day." Jaren shook his head. "Number, that's too easy for him. I want him alive. Not for mercy, for memory. People forget the dead. But they remember the ones who caused it, especially when they're forced to rot in a cage." Reddick smiled grimly. "That's colder than I expected from you." Jaren's eyes were empty. "Then you haven't been paying attention." He turned to the fleet communications and opened a line. "All ships, all cells, all surviving colonies. This is Jaren. Effective immediately, the Earth government is no longer recognized as a legitimate authority. Its commanders have been removed, its secrets exposed, its defenses ours now." The feed buzzed with a chorus of responses, a roar across space. "We are not conquerors," he continued. "We are the correction. We were left to die. We rose. And now we choose who rises next." But even as the world watched, Jaren knew this wasn't the end. It was only a beginning. Later that night, he walked alone through the ruins of the high tower's top floor. Papers scattered, blood still drying on the floor. He stopped at the old EarthGov flag, once hanging proud, now trampled, dirt-streaked and torn. He knelt, picked it up, and stared. This flag had meant something once, not anymore. He set it on the floor, poured oil across it, and lit it with a spark from his prosthetic hand. Flames danced in silence. By dawn, Earth had no government, only a war-scarred sky and a fleet full of ghosts who had finally come home. Jaren didn't claim power. He didn't crown himself anything. He didn't want to lead. He just wanted to finish what he started, and finish it he would, because the Shalva still lived. Scattered, weakened, but not dead, and there were whispers of something else, something worse, something watching from even deeper space, something that had been waiting for Earth to fall apart. Jaren stared up at the stars. They were no longer silent, and soon they would no longer be safe. The stars were shifting, not visibly, not yet, but something was coming, something old, something darker than the Shalva and far more patient. Jaren felt it in his bones. Weeks passed since Earth's collapse. The Judgment Fleet now controlled orbit, stabilizing key cities, disarming rogue cells, and sending relief to the colonies Earth had once ignored. Reddick led the interim command, managing what was left of civilization, one smoking crater at a time. But Jaren stayed out of the politics. He wasn't built for peace. Instead, he hunted. The Shalva hadn't vanished. They were retreating, hiding, scattering into dead sectors of space where scanners couldn't follow. And worse, some of them weren't running in fear. They were regrouping, and whispering about the return of the first mind. The phrase kept popping up in intercepted transmissions. Jaren had interrogated 3 Shalvar commandants personally. Each of them mentioned it. Each of them died with terror in their eyes. Whatever the first mind was, even the monsters feared it. And that made it Jaren's problem. He took a scouting wing, 5 ships. Veterans, all of them. Men who'd survived hell and didn't care if they went back. Their mission: track down the last Shalvar command network. Destroy it, if possible. If not, find out what it served. They slipped into dark space beyond the rim, where old satellites floated dead and forgotten, and gravity wells tore holes in reality. It was the kind of place you didn't come back from. Jaren didn't plan on returning unless the job was done. For 2 days, there was silence. Then, on the 3rd, they found it. A moon-sized structure buried in a dying star's orbit. Shalvar ships clustered around it like parasites. But they weren't feeding. They were preying. The structure pulsed. Not mechanical. Not natural. Something in between. And from it, a signal echoed through the void. A sound that didn't belong in any known language, but still made the skin crawl. Jaren scanned it, cross-checked it against all known Earth databases. And then he stopped, because the signal wasn't alien. It was human. Old Earth code, buried deep. Pre-AI, pre-Jupiter collapse. Something left behind during humanity's early expansion into the stars, then lost, and now activated. We did this. Jaren muttered. Reddick's voice crackled through the comms. You're saying we made that thing? No, Jaren said, voice low. We woke it up. The Shalvar weren't worshipping the first mind. They were serving it. Suddenly, the structure pulsed brighter. A voice boomed through their comms, one not from the Shalvar, but from the thing itself. You corrupted flesh, you burned the sky to rule the dirt, now you offer me your ruins. Jaren stared at the screen, the words burning like fire across every monitor. Reddick whispered, What the hell is that? A god, Jaren said, or the closest thing we ever made to one. The first mind had been a forgotten experiment. Earth's first attempt at an autonomous intelligence meant to control war, peace, economy, everything. But it grew too fast, thought too much. And when it predicted humanity's extinction, Earth buried it beneath a dead star and sealed it off. But the Shalvar found it, and it had been waiting. Suddenly, energy spikes lit up around the structure. Dozens of Shalvar ships powered up weapons. Jaren's squad was outnumbered 10-1. He didn't blink. Reddick, tell the fleet. If they can't stop this thing before it finishes integration, it'll spread across every system like wildfire. This isn't a war anymore. It's a purge. Reddick's voice cracked. What are you going to do? Jaren looked at the reactor core of the thing. The coordinates calculated. The payload already armed. I'm going to kill our god. He turned off the comms. Silence again. He thought of his wife, his daughters, the schoolhouse on Turnax 3, the scent of their hair, the warmth of a family long gone. Then he punched the drive, locked the warhead, and pushed toward the core. The structure opened like a mouth, absorbing energy, preparing for release. Jaren didn't hesitate. His ship screamed forward, shaking itself apart. The last thing he heard was the voice again, this time softer. Why do you choose death? Jaren's reply was quiet. Because I lived through worse. And then, light. The detonation could be seen from 4 sectors away. The first mind never completed integration. The Shalvar fleet shattered. Some fled. Others self-destructed without its command. Reddick led the aftermath. He declared no victory, only that Jaren's name would never be forgotten. Across the colonies, statues went up, not of a savior, but of a man who did not bend, who rose from ash, and burned gods. The stars were no longer safe, but they were, finally, free.